Revenge. It's an urge that's basically as old as people are. And get this, over 400 years ago, a guy named Sir Francis Bacon wrote an essay about it that is so incredibly sharp, it feels like it could have been written this morning. So today, we're going to break down his timeless wisdom from Of Revenge. Come on, we've all been there, right? Someone does you wrong, and that little voice in your head, that primal urge to strike back, feels almost impossible to ignore. Well, Bacon dives right into this question, but his answer isn't some simple yes or no. Nope, it's way more profound and honestly, way more powerful. So Bacon kicks things off with this brilliant phrase. He calls revenge a kind of wild justice. I mean, he gets it. He understands that urge comes from a real place, a desire to see wrongs made right. But right away, he calls it what it is, primitive. It's an instinct that civilized laws were literally designed to weed out. Because, justice without any rules, that's just chaos. All right, so if revenge is wild, what's the alternative? What are we supposed to do? Well, Bacon's first big point is that real strength isn't about getting even. It's about rising above it all. And this is where he just completely flips the script on what we think of as power. He argues that taking revenge doesn't make you strong. It just makes you even. You're just stooping to your enemy's level, playing their game. But choosing to pass it over, to forgive, well, that, he says, is what makes you superior. It's proof that you're operating on a whole different level. And he uses this perfect example to illustrate his point. Back in Bacon's day, who had all the power? Kings, princes, right? And what was one of their greatest powers? The ability to pardon someone. So by linking forgiveness to royalty, he frames it not as weakness, but as the ultimate flex of strength and authority. Then, Bacon gets super practical. He points out that wise men have enough to do with things present and to come. He's basically saying that successful, smart people are too busy looking forward. They're building their future, they don't have time to be stuck fighting battles from a past that you can't even change. For Bacon, revenge isn't just a moral problem, it's a huge waste of time and energy. And really, here's the key takeaway from this whole section. A quest for revenge doesn't trap your enemy, it traps you. You're the one chained to what happened, reliving the hurt, while they, and pretty much the rest of the world, have already moved on. So, this whole idea of being trapped leads right into Bacon's next point. He doesn't just look at the act of revenge, he actually dissects the mind of the person seeking it. Yeah, he asks us to really think about it. What's going on in the head of a vengeful person? What happens to your mind, to your soul, when your main focus in life becomes getting back at somebody else? This might just be the most famous line from the whole essay, and you can see why. What a powerful image. He's saying that plotting revenge is like constantly picking at a wound that's trying to heal. You are literally refusing to let yourself get better. Your focus on hurting someone else is actually what's keeping you from healing. And the outlook for this kind of person, it's not great. Bacon compares them to witches, which, you gotta remember, was a seriously terrifying thing to be called in his day. Sure, they cause trouble for other people, but in the end, they just bring misfortune right back onto themselves. Their own lives end in unhappiness. Now, what I find really fascinating is that Bacon even sees different shades of revenge. He says there's a more generous, if you can call it that, type of revenger. This person wants their enemy to know exactly who hit them back and why, almost hoping it'll make them feel bad about what they did. But then there's the cowardly type, who just wants to cause pain anonymously, like an arrow that flies in the dark. But hold on, just when you think you've got Bacon pegged as a total pacifist, he throws a huge curveball. He makes one massive, really important exception to his whole anti-revenge rule. And it all depends on who is seeking revenge and why. And that one exception comes down to a key difference: a personal grudge versus public justice. See, for Bacon, one person seeking revenge on another is almost always a bad, destructive thing. But when an entire society wants justice for a crime against the whole community, like, say, assassinating a leader, he actually calls that fortunate. This table really lays it out. He points to these huge historical moments, like the revenge for the deaths of Julius Caesar or Henry III of France. He argues those were actually beneficial. They restored order, they punished a huge crime against the state. But private feuds, personal vendettas, he just calls them mischievous and says they lead nowhere good. It's the difference between justice and just a personal fight. So after he weighs all the arguments, where does Bacon leave us? What's the final word, the big takeaway from this incredibly smart and powerful essay? Okay, let's just pull it all together. Bacon's core message seems to be that we should try to rise above that primal instinct for revenge. He shows us that real power isn't in getting even, it's in being big enough to forgive. He warns us that focusing on revenge is really just a form of self-harm, keeping our own wounds from healing. And finally, he makes that crucial distinction. Private fights are toxic, but sometimes public justice is absolutely necessary. And that really leaves us with one last question, doesn't it? I mean, we live in an age of instant judgment, of online callouts, where demanding payback has never been easier. So maybe Bacon's advice, to just pause, to find strength in forgiving, and to focus on healing ourselves instead of hurting others, maybe that 400-year-old wisdom is exactly what we need to hear right now. Thanks for checking out this explainer.